Texas is back. And I say that in terms of they're taking the field for 2025, not proclaiming that they are a national relevant team after defeating a Monday Notre Dame roster on the 40 acres on a Sunday night. Regardless, it was a good first year in the SEC for the Longhorns, an 11-1 record, punching their ticket to the conference title game and representing the SEC in the college football playoff. But there's a lot of turnover this offseason. New quarterback, new offensive line, several new defensive stars, but you do have high hopes for Arch Manning, a running back tandem, and Steve Sarkisian once again landed premier prospects in the portal and the #1 recruiting class. So what really can be the ultimate goal for the Longhorns this upcoming fall, and can they make it to the national title game? Well, if these three bold predictions happen, I think it's a pretty fair shot. So welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Longhorn Nation, like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson and at SEC Unfiltered. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. And we are always proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join in the action today. Get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So if you want to lay down $5 that Arch is going to claim the Heisman Trophy, make sure you do it over at FanDuel.com/SECU. Or if you think that Texas is going to hit the under and wins, go do the exact same thing, FanDuel.com/SECU. Now remember, these are bold predictions. I'm going to say that one more time. They're bold, which means they're supposed to be challenging to reach. And so when they come true, you come back here and say, hey, Cole Thompson was right. He's the smartest man in the world. And when they're wrong, they were bold predictions. It was extremely challenging to get through. Two quick ones just to throw out here because I don't think that they're really that bold anymore. But number one, Texas goes undefeated this year. If you believe the way that I do in the identity of what Steve Sarkisian's offense is going to be and how well this defense is going to be able to replace the production in the interior defensive line, you don't really worry about many matchups. Yes, the Georgia game is going to be challenging. Yes, playing in the swamp is certainly going to be a trap moment, and even the Ohio State game. But the identity of this roster and the way that it has been constructed probably means that Texas has an opportunity of going undefeated all the way to Atlanta. And then bold prediction number two, and this is where I lost a lot of people yesterday talking about Texas A&M having the #1 rushing attack. I am not saying that Trey Wisner is not going to be an important part of this offense. I'm not saying that CJ Baxter is not going to be a bell cow bruiser. What I am going to say is I think that we are going to see a very similar process to 2022 Texas run game. And what do I mean by that? Well, you had one lead running back, which was Bijan Robinson, over 1,500 yards, and then Roschon Johnson, 5 touchdowns, averaged about 6 yards a play, roughly under 600 rushing yards. I think CJ Baxter is going to be the Bijan Robinson. And I think that Trey Wisner is going to be the Roschon Johnson. Not to say that neither one of them can't be successful, but I just look at the fact that CJ Baxter was the first freshman to win the starting job since Ricky Williams. And he probably would have been the 1,000-yard runner last season if you just didn't get hurt, which allowed Trey Wisner to have a more substantial role. I think Wisner's going to be really good. I think he's going to be a chain mover. I think he's going to be that impactful force on 3rd and 4th down, especially inside the red zone. Maybe he's going to have double-digit touchdowns. But I'm buying more stock into CJ Baxter having about 1,300 rushing yards. Both these two combined are probably going to have anywhere between 700 and 1,300 rushing yards apiece. So no worries on that front. All right, now bold prediction number one. Texas is breaking in a lot of new weapons. Texas is having a bunch of new dudes having to step on up. But I think you have 2 1,000-yard playmakers on this offense. That's my bold prediction number one. I look at Ryan Wingo, and the way that I've talked to people around the program is, hey, we knew that he didn't hit his stride last season, but you look at Ryan Williams, you look at Cam Coleman, you look at what Jeremiah Smith is possibly doing, and it's a recap of year 2. Yeah, we think Ryan Wingo can be that guy. And on paper, he very well can. The numbers when he was coming out of high school were phenomenal, and there was a reason why people were buying stock into him being that breakout star down on the 40 acres. No more Xavier Worthy. You didn't know what you were getting in Matthew Golden, and you didn't know the stats of Jonte Cook. So he didn't end up having the year that you wanted. Didn't mean it was a bad year. Really worked well building a rapport with Arch Manning as the wide receiver number 2 or wide receiver number 1 for that offense. Still finished 4th on the team in receptions with 472 yards, 2 touchdowns. Well, you no longer have an Isaiah Bond on campus. You no longer have a Matthew Golden on campus. No more Silas Bolden. No more Gunnar Helm. And so I think that this is a year where maybe last season was a stepping stone point. You get to learn the ins and outs of what Steve Sarkisian likes for his past playmakers to do. You get to feel what Arch Manning is as a quarterback. You get to build that rapport on the sidelines. Now you get to attack across the middle of the field. Now you get to attack on the outside. Great speed, incredible vertical threat, smooth, silky hands, a good route runner. I think he's going to add tremendous value and show you what was the potential last season that he just couldn't break through. Then I said there's going to be another wide receiver or another playmaker. You got three options. I think that DeAndre Moore, the sample size that we got of him last year, even though there were a couple of bad drops, I don't think defines him as a true player. We also saw him make a couple of big-time grabs, 11.7 yards a play. He also finished with 7 touchdowns. That's impressive for a guy that we thought was wide receiver number 3. So maybe this year in the slot with no more having to worry about Matthew Golden, he ends up being that big-time playmaker. And Arch Manning in the slot may really, really benefit from having a go-to weapon like a number 0, just pushing the pylon forward, getting those extra first downs. So he may be a dude. I think the addition of Emmett Mosley was really underrated from Stanford. He led all ACC wide receivers last season in receptions for freshmen. And I think that he was one of the more under-the-radar type of names that we just didn't talk enough about because he played for an underwhelming Stanford Cardinal team. He may end up being a really good option on the outside as your Z receiver. And then you also have to throw in number 3, and in my opinion, probably the one that I'm buying a lot of stock into, Jack Andrews from Cal. He is, in my opinion, the best receiving tight end in college football. Max Clare exists. You also have Eli Stowers out in Vanderbilt. I think both of them can be really substantially important to their teams. But I just look at Jack Andrews, an open field merchant. Incredible winning off the line of scrimmage as a receiving threat. Doesn't drop many balls. Has that 6'5" frame that is going to pulverize over you in the open field if you're a defensive back. That's going to lead to a lot of gains. And for any young quarterback out there, I think the biggest thing that you have to look for is having that security blanket. That's what Jack Andrews is. And we know this about Steve Sarkisian's offense from Jatavian Sanders, from Gunnar Helm. They love the tight end position. They want to get the tight end position involved. And if this offense can be as explosive on field as it feels on paper, that to me screams, yeah, you may have a 1,000-yard tight end. And maybe that's your John Mackey Award winner. I won't go that bold just yet because there are some good tight ends. But Jack Andrews for me is the number 1 tight end that I want to be talking about going into the month of November. Bold prediction number 2, I don't worry about Texas at all this year. It's why I think they're going to go to the playoff. It's why I think they're going to be in Atlanta. So I think that they're also going to lead the country in margin of victory. I'm saying that right now, you look at this offense, 4 new starters on the offensive line, 3 new wide receivers, a brand new tight end, 1 running back coming off of injury, 1 running back that you hope can duplicate his success, and you have Arch Manning. Well, if you're buying stock into Arch Manning and you think that going into year 3 with AJ Milwee and Steve Sarkisian as his play callers, he's only going to get better. And even though that the physical reps aren't there, the mental part is. He also comes from the Manning lore. He's been a part of big-time moments throughout his entire life, and he understands how to play the quarterback position under pressure because he's watched both of his Hall of Fame uncles do it and his College Football Hall of Fame grandpa do it. So I think that when you look at that, he's going to transition fine. He's going to build that rapport with the offensive personnel, whether it be Jack Andrews, 1 game for 29 yards, or Emmett Mosley, another game for 42 yards, DeAndre Moore for a 26-yard touchdown. Then you throw in Ryan Wingo for a 72-yard blast. Plus, you got a solid run game. And the way that Kyle Flood has developed these offensive linemen, it feels eerily similar to what we saw underneath Nick Saban for years down in Tuscaloosa, where, hey, we got an All-American left tackle, but the guy behind it was actually just waiting in the wings to claim his All-American status next season. And then he will go and become a first-round pick. That's how it feels for me when I look at this offensive personnel. I think Trevor Gooseby is going to have a great jump moving on over to the left side. I think that having Cole Hudson, former starter in the interior, now full-time starter at center, DJ Campbell back for another year. Brandon Baker's going to be really interesting to see how he transitions to that right tackle spot. But I truly think that you will see an identity of this offensive line not miss a beat. Yes, it's 4 new starters, but it's 4 new starters that have experience playing underneath Kyle Flood. And then we talk about the defense. So many people are sleeping on the names returning because we're so focused in on the names that left. No more Alfred Collins, no more Jahdae Barron. And I'm sitting here and saying, yeah, but you still have Mookie Taft on the back end. You still have Malik Muhammad, who is a really good shutdown cornerback number 2. Can he transition to that CB number 1? You have Jalen Gilbo that I don't think is getting enough respect playing in that nickel spot. You also have Kobe Blackback for another year. Trey Moore coming off of the edge. You also have Colin Simmons who's going to have a better year. And Anthony Hill. So I look at that and I say to myself, defensively, your questions on the interior of the line and the names that they brought in, whether it be Hero Canoe or Cole Brevard or Travis Shaw or Manad Watson or Levon Johnson, every single one of them can have an assignment. And then you throw in an Ethan Burke to be your outside edge rusher. That to me screams that this is going to be still one of the premier defenses in college football, not just the SEC. And that's going to lead to substantial victories where the offense is humming and the defense doesn't drop off. So you're talking about a game against Kentucky, maybe you win by 30. A game against Arkansas, who knows what that roster is going to look like at the season's end. Plus, they have to come to the 40 acres. Maybe that's a 28-point win. Maybe the game against Ohio State bringing in all of these new talents leads to a double-digit victory. And so it adds all up to margin of victory shows that Texas is the most complete team. On paper, they feel like it. On the field, I think they're going to show it no later than probably mid-October. And then bold prediction number 3, again, it's bold. People are talking about Arch Manning going to the Big Apple. I politely disagree. There will be a Longhorn in New York City for the Heisman Trophy. And I think it's going to be Ant Hill. I think Anthony Hill is the most underappreciated player currently in college football. And I think he is the best player in the SEC for 2025. And I don't think it's particularly close. People want to forget about the season he had last year, how impactful he was to this defense taking the next jump forward. Let me just remind you, 113 tackles, 17 tackles for losses, 8 sacks, 1 interception, multiple pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. Oh, and he also had by himself 85 tackles. So you add all that together and you say, well, Cole, why would a linebacker get to go to the Heisman Trophy presentation? Because what if he duplicates it? What if last year was just the first course? What if it was the appetizer? What if last year was, hey, the welcoming party? Yeah, I knew that I was good coming out of high school. I knew that I had a role as a freshman. I knew that I could step on up as a sophomore. I'm going to go pro this year, and I want to be the highest linebacker drafted since Devin White. I want to be a top 5 pick. So I'm going to show you early on in that Ohio State game what you're signing up for. And remember, they will take defensive players to the Heisman Trophy presentation. And Ndamukong Suh went, Manti Te'o went, Aiden Hutchinson went. And in Aiden Hutchinson's year that he decided to make the jump on over to the Big Apple, 14 sacks, 17 tackles for losses, 62 tackles. And then Will Anderson also had a case that year with 102 tackles, 35 tackles for losses, 17.5 sacks. He was an All-American, wasn't a representative for the Heisman Trophy. But what if we meet in the middle there with Ant Hill? And he's prominent in these big-time games. The Florida game, let's say he has 3 sacks against DJ Lagway. Let's say in the Georgia game, he ends up having 2 sacks against Gunnar Stockton and an interception return for a touchdown. And in Red River Shootout, he sacks John Mateer twice, and he has 9 tackles for losses or 6 tackles for losses and a pick 6 that ends up being the deciding factor in this game in the fourth quarter. And he finishes the year with 114 tackles, 19 tackles for losses, 12 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 returned for a touchdown. You're going to tell me that there are more offensive players who were valuable to their team than what Agent Zero was doing at the second level of the defense? It's a challenging award, and it's why it's a bold prediction. I think that if you were just to be a smart person banking on Arch Manning or even CJ Baxter or Trey Wisner going to New York to represent the Longhorns, you would be right. You would. But I look right now at what a guy like Anthony Hill means to a Pete Kwiatkowski defense. What he's going to mean this year to set the standard with no more Jahdae Barron on the roster, with still some question marks that maybe you have in the secondary at other spots, with some questions that you have on the interior defensive line. His role is critical to the success of Texas. And I think that's why Texas is going to trust that he will get the job done. I think that's why America is going to realize what I'm saying is true. He is the number 1 player in the SEC. And I think that most people will understand by the season's end, there's only one name in that locker room in Austin that belongs in the Big Apple, and that's Anthony Hill. But let me know in the comment section down below, where did I miss? I gave you 5 bowl predictions because of your Texas. Number 1, you go undefeated. Number 2, Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter turn into Roshan Johnson and Bijan Robinson of 2022. 2 1,000-yard playmakers at wide receiver or tight end. largest margin of victory in every single game. And Anthony Hill, Heisman Trophy finalist in the Big Apple, representing the Longhorns. Comment, like, review, share. Make sure you're following us on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow the channel at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that you go download the podcast version of the show. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. And as always, make sure you go to FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join today with $250 in bonus bets. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. Hook 'em Nation. I'm telling you, the Heisman Trophy presenter is on the defensive side. Bye.